Hi, welcome to another episode of Leaving the Lies and Telling Your Truth. My name is Ariyl Fuentes, and I'm joined here with Melody Post, and we are bringing you another episode. This time we're doing an interview with Leanne today. We have a page on Facebook, and we also have a channel on YouTube, Leaving the Lies and Telling Your Truth. We're asking you to like, share, and subscribe. So the more that you know, the more knowledge that you have, the more that we can help people. Hi, welcome, Mel. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing, Leanne?
I'm doing really good.
It's been a minute since we've seen each other, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You look really great. Don't be nervous. We're just sitting around having coffee. Think of it that way.
There we go. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to start by asking, when did you join the House of Yahweh and how long were you there?
So my mom and I went in June of 1989 for the Feast of Pentecost, and I was there for 19 years.
Wow. Wow. You were only one feast behind me in joining, because I joined in Passover of 89. So.
And I was Tabernacles of 89.
Yeah, we all joined the same year.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, and let me see here, because you already answered that kind of question there. What were your first impressions of the House of Yahweh?
I thought it was really weird. Couldn't wear my shorts. I couldn't wear my tank tops. I'm from Houston, and it's always hot, so that's what you wear. And I got yelled at every day because that's all I packed. So.
Oh goodness, yeah, that was.
How old were you?
I was 11.
There you go.
Can you kind of walk us through how your life played out as a member of the House of Yahweh?
Okay, so we went in, like I said, in June of 89. We went back home after that feast. And my mom kind of, while we were there in June, she did like some job interviews. And we moved in August.
Wow, that's quick.
Up there. 8 hours from everything that I'd ever known. And so we moved up there, and then I immediately started in the Ilya school. I think there's a newspaper article with me in it. My ex recently sent it to my oldest daughter.
That was nice.
Yes. Because they came in and they did pictures of the school for the newspaper. And then we lived just off of the 10 acres. So we lived in the apartments right behind it.
So let me clarify real quick. The Ilya school is the school that the House of Yahweh had.
Yes.
And the 10 acres was where the original sanctuary in actually Abilene was.
Right.
Okay.
Right, in Abilene. So, and our apartment actually kind of overlooked the grounds. So like we could stand on the balcony and see everything. And my mom met somebody while she was there. My parents were divorced. My mom met somebody while she was there. They got married. We moved into a house just like across the street from them on a little side street, and continued going to the Ilya school. Don't really remember a whole lot about like my younger time other than that, or my younger years. I do remember like going to visit people. I think, Ariyl, that's actually when you and I met, because I went to visit your cousin.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we came up to your house.
Yes.
And we both got blistered sunburned.
Yes. Yes, I remember that. Yes.
That when I was like 13, 14.
Mm-hmm.
And then I do remember during my very first feast, or my second feast, walking with some friends that I had met, and I looked over and I saw my ex, who is much older than I am at that age, and I was like, I'm going to marry him. And
oh wow,
that was like I was just like, I'm going to marry him. That's who I'm going to marry. when you're 11.
Yeah.
Right.
I did end up marrying him when I was 17. There were some things going on at home that I just wanted to be away from. So I begged my mom to let me get married. And she was like, well, you can either go to a regular high school and get an actual high school diploma, or you can go get your GED. And at that point I was working. So I said, okay, well, I'll just go pay for my GED, because I'm not going all the way back to the 9th grade when I'm 17. It's just not going to happen. So got my GED in February. And then in June, we were married.
So
I was 17.
I'm sorry. Was there a courtship time? Did you guys date?
A little under a year. He was actually living with us, sleeping on my bedroom floor, because his parents had been excommunicated.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's how you guys got to know one another, and then feelings just erupted, and
yeah, basically,
then you got married. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And I'm sorry, because I don't know this, because this happened around the time that I left. Were you his first wife?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I was his first wife for 13 years. The only one. So,
wow.
So got married at 17. At that point, my sister had already come and was involved. And so I had nowhere to leave to go to if I wanted to.
Right.
My family was there. I didn't know any of my other family, didn't grow up around them. Always questioned things in my head, but never actually verbalized them, because I was always like, oh, well, you're not supposed to question. Just do, just believe, don't question, which is what got me to my leaving point. But we'll get to that.
Yeah, that is one of our questions.
Yes.
We will get to that.
Yes.
Have you been watching our interviews, Leanne? Because you seem to be just acing it just right.
I've seen a couple of them, yeah. But I've told my story a couple of times to a couple of different people.
Okay.
So I kind of know where I like to go. So, we got married in 95, had my first child in 97, about just over 2 years after we'd been married. Have had several children since then. I have stair steps. They're all very close in age. 3 that still live at home full time.
Wow. So you've just been running and gunning since what, 19, correct?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. Yeah.
So was your marriage while you were, I'm going to kind of go off script, Melody. She loves when I do this.
That's okay.
So was your marriage a happy marriage? Did it start out like normal, typical marriages start out?
In the beginning, yeah. We were happy. We bought a house from the overseer, or we were buying a house from the overseer.
Yes, right.
Yes. Never actually got a title to it.
Surprise.
Yeah. Didn't have a refrigerator. I hung sheets up for curtains because we didn't have anything. He was, trying to start his business around that time. So, I would cook, and then I would take food over to my mom's to put in her fridge. And I have to go pick it up for leftovers or whatever.
Wow.
Because we didn't have a refrigerator. But yeah, in the beginning, I would say that we were happy. After things really started to change, and he started, actively looking for another wife, I would say that's when things kind of started going downhill for us.
So did he include you in that? Did he say, I'm going to find another wife?
In the beginning, yes, when I was allowed to know those things. And there there were a couple that, that we talked to together, that were interested, that were, one lived about 2 hours away. Her and I are still really good friends. And then another one moved to the area with her family, and we were, she would come and stay over at our house because there was we were closer to her work, and talking to her. I think they actually started counseling for marriage, and then she was like, I can't do this, and
Oh, she backed out.
Yeah, she actually just completely left.
Meaning she left the House of Yahweh totally.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So let me ask a quick question here, Leanne, because you were so young, and when multiple marriage came out, you kind of grew up. Well, I wouldn't say grow up, but you had time to adjust before you got married to that, correct?
Yes, I did.
So it was kind of sprung on me. So I went through all of the emotions. Let me ask you this. Did you still go through the jealousy? Why am I not good enough? Or had you somehow tried to find that this is normal, this is what's to happen? How did it affect you when he said he wanted to bring in somebody else into your marriage?
Well, I think it was kind of both. So yes, I kind of grew up with it. It came out, and so at that point when it came out, I wasn't seeing anybody. So I could have anybody I wanted.
Fair enough.
Well, sure, I can marry him, or I can marry him. I had choice anybody here.
Nobody's off limits because men can marry as many wives as they want.
Right. Exactly.
We laugh, but that is the mentality that they were giving these young girls, was that you could have and do, anybody that you want. This is what they were building these girls up to think.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because it was to their benefit, right?
Right.
But I went through both. So I went through, okay, well, I'm going to try to accept this. Yes, we're married. This is the law. So, I'm supposed to submit. But I still went through, say, fits of jealousy. I threw things across the room at him. I've broken a few cell phones on the door.
I remember being that attitude. I remember acting like that. Yeah.
So, and I'll admit it. That's what I did. I was extremely jealous. I was, no, you're married to me. This is our relationship. We've been married for, X amount of time. We've been together for X amount of time. I think one of the things that really got me with the girls that he was talking to is that they were younger than me. And there's an 8-year age difference already between him and I.
Whoa.
So they were younger than me.
Okay.
So I think that was like my main, my real breaking point when it came to jealousy, because those women were my friends. They still are.
How much younger than you?
One is, just I want to say 2 or 3 years younger than me. And the other one was a senior in high school.
Oh.
When he started talking to her.
Wow.
Okay. And then when he actually did bring somebody in, he was sent to the state that she lived in by Israel with one of his workers to go pick up her and all of her stuff and her boys, move her back. And she was about 10 years older than I was. So she was older than him even.
Okay.
When she moved in.
Okay.
Wow.
At least he kept it legal.
Yeah.
I'm going to backtrack just a bit here, because I know that you talked about your children, and I know that you lost a child in the House of Yahweh, and that would be difficult under any normal circumstances, but I'm sure there was certainly extra stress and extra things that you had to deal with. Are you comfortable sharing with us about that loss and how you've coped with that?
Yeah, definitely. So my first daughter, Sam, was born in 97. She was only a day early. And beautiful in every sense of the word. Ariyl was there. So they actually, her and my sister, the day I went into labor, actually left and said, oh, we have to go to the farm and take him some food and water, and then we'll be back. You're not in labor, because my sister was pregnant at the same time. We were due
So
about
was I.
apart, and so was Ariyl.
When did you have Sam? What month?
July.
Okay, I wasn't pregnant then. I
Yeah,
had
you had just had
Ruby.
Right, you had just had Ruby, and then it was supposed to be me and then Stacy, according to due dates. But my sister was like, "Oh, it's your first pregnancy. You're going to be late. You're not in labor. It's just Braxton Hicks. We'll be back." So I am left alone in my sister's trailer, in a rocking chair, going, "Okay, yeah, sure, I can do this. I've already been up all night, like having contractions, kicking my ex. He threatened to kick me out of the bed because I wouldn't call anybody. I was like, it's nothing, it's okay. And so, like, they stopped at another member's house and was like, my sister was like, hey, I feel really bad. Will you please go check on my sister? She thinks she's in labor, but we have to leave and go take him food. And I was like, so she was like, yeah, I'll go over there. And she walked in the house and took one look at me and was like, go get in my truck right now. Go get in my truck. We're going to Mel. This is not play. So my sister felt really bad. She tells me all the time how bad she felt. So I had her July 9th of 1997, and she was perfect, big blue eyes, red hair, looked a lot like her dad's sister, which her older sister did as well at birth. But she, I had her for almost 3 months. We were about 10 days shy of being 3 months old when I lost her to SIDS. Only breastfed except for the 2 nights before she died. She went and stayed with a friend because I had to have surgery. I had to have my gallbladder removed. And then she came home. It was fine. She was a little extra fussy. And then I was nursing her in the chair. And I got like super sleepy. I just had surgery. So I laid down on the bed with the intention of getting up and taking her to her crib. When I woke up, it was about 3 a.m. And I got up to go get a drink. Usually if she was in bed with me when I got up, she'd kind of like roll into my spot because she was on her side. She didn't move. I came back in the room, and the only thought that went through my head was, she's gone and there's nothing you can do about it.
So you knew already?
I knew already. I went over when I was finally able to move because I froze. I went over, picked her up. She was already gone. She was stiff. Oh. Did CPR anyway. I woke him up. I was like, "You get up. My baby's not breathing. Get up right now." So he got up. We got in the van, and he headed up towards the sanctuary. He's gonna have elders pray over her. And I'm on the phone with Melody. She's like, "Where are y'all going?" I was like, "He said he's good. That we're going here." She was like, "No, you tell him turn the van around right now and go to the hospital. They can meet you there." So I'm doing CPR the whole way.
Oh my gosh.
Nothing that could have been done at that point anyway. I got her to the hospital. Walked in. I was like, the automatic doors wouldn't open. So I was like holding the baby and I'm trying to pull these doors open. And I was like, "You have to help me. My baby's not breathing." And they ran and they took her from me and took her into a room and started working on her. I kept following them into the room. So I know, because they kept escorting me out, I know that the only reason that they did anything was because I kept walking in. The only reason that they gave her anything, tried to give her anything, because I kept walking in. Because I wouldn't stay out of the room. So they took us into a room, and they said, "Is there anything that we can get you?" I said, "You can bring me my baby." And so I sat there and I held her until they had to take her to Dallas, because as a infant, it's an automatic autopsy. because there was no cause.
Right.
So we were told don't submit to the autopsy, but in the state of Texas, you don't have a choice. Because
Who told you not to submit to the autopsy?
The elders. And so they took her, and there were about, I don't know, 50 people from the House of Yahweh up at the hospital with us that night. Then they took us both to we had to go over to the police station and give reports, separate reports on what happened. They kept asking me if my ex was an alcoholic, because before bed, he'd had a rum and coke, and the bottle of rum was sitting by the bed because he didn't go put it away. And I was like, no, he just had a drink before he went to bed. It's not like my house was riddled with empty alcohol containers, right. And right. From what they tell me, that was just standard procedure to ask those questions.
Right.
Afterwards, so they had her back. That was the last time I saw her, was in the hospital. They wouldn't let me go see her at the funeral home. They sent somebody else with clothes for the funeral director to dress her, because they didn't want me to remember her that way. So,
who's they, Leanne? Was that the House of Yahweh, or
the elders and counselors at the time?
Do you regret that? Do you feel like you would have made a different choice had you been given the opportunity to make your own decision?
Yes and no.
That's fair, because sometimes you don't know what the other choice would have been because you didn't go down that path.
Right.
Right.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that with us. I do have one more question concerning that. Is she buried on the House of Yahweh grounds?
She's not. She's in the Eula Cemetery.
I'm grateful for your sake for that, because I wondered if you were able to visit her. And obviously then you are. You do have that ability to go see her.
Yes, I've seen her twice since then. I saw her the day that my divorce was final in November of 2008. I drove out there, and it was like raining all day, and I was like, oh, I don't want to get out in the rain, but I'm not going to be able to be back up here for a while. So I was like, well, I'm going to drive out there anyway. I got out there. I parked outside the gates of the Eula Cemetery, and as soon as I put the car in park, the rain just stopped. And so to me, that was, a sign I was supposed to be there. And then the other time I saw her is when I was moving through to Arizona. I stopped, and the kids got to go.
That's nice.
Visit. And the only thing I don't like is the fact that I have to count where she's at, because the only thing on her grave is a little plaque that says Hawkins.
Oh.
Because I was not allowed to buy her a headstone.
Oh.
So I have to count. Okay, so this person passed, and then this person lost their baby, and then I lost Sam. So.
Wow. Were you offered any grief counseling after she had died?
Nothing.
Was your ex very supportive? I mean, how was the process afterwards, if you don't mind me asking?
He preferred not to talk about it. Was not offered any counseling until after I left, which was, I left in 2008. She died in 97.
So then am I to assume from that then you really didn't or weren't able to grieve her death until that time?
I was not allowed to grieve her death until I left. Wow. I wasn't even allowed to cry at the gravesite when we buried her.
You were told that before you went?
Yes.
Who told you that?
We were told that by Israel Hawkins. Because of the people that had died and been brought back to life with prayer.
I'm so
what
sorry,
if she
hon.
woke up in there?
I
Was
can't
all.
even fathom that. I can't even fathom how anybody could ask any mother to even attempt to do that. I would have just said there's no way I can. So I just can't go then. Wow. I don't know how you did that. You've got strength that I don't. Were you able to do that?
Yes.
Did you just have to go somewhere else and numb yourself?
Yeah.
Oh my
See,
gosh, girl.
not to take away from Leanne or anything, but she was almost statue like. There really wasn't any
Oh, you were there.
expression. I was.
Okay.
Yeah.
There was no expression at all. It literally looked like a statue. She was a shell of a person. And
And how long ago was that after you had lost her that took place, Leon? Like, was that days
3 days.
later? 3 days. Okay. So
3 days.
you
Yeah, we only
probably
had
were
3
still in
days.
shock.
Mhm.
well, you had to wait for the autopsy.
Had to wait for the
Before they hit
autopsy,
body
but
back.
they worked with us since she couldn't be embalmed
Mm,
because we weren't allowed to embalm.
right.
So she had to go through. I'm not trying to take over your story.
Oh no, no! You're fine. You were there. So
She went through. I remember thinking, because like we said, I had Ruby. Ruby was young, or just a couple months older, and I remember thinking, how is she even standing? And you're what, 10, 11 years younger than me. I am not giving my age on here.
Okay. So I'll give my age. I'm 42 now.
Oh, well, you're not that much younger than me.
Yeah, no,
okay,
I'm
I
not.
really thought you were. Okay. So I'm not going to say how much younger, because people on here will be doing that. Okay, and I'm from the South. We don't speak about age. But I just remember thinking to me, she was so much younger than me. She was like my little sister,
Right.
And I remember thinking, how is she holding this together? And how is she just standing there? And it wasn't in a judgmental way. It was almost in an angry way of, what are they making her do?
Right.
Well,
now you know the behind the scenes.
Yeah, my hat's off to you, Leanne. I mean,
Absolutely. And I want to say how sorry I am that you had to go through that, but how even more sorry I am that you had to go through that and be told that you couldn't grieve. You couldn't
Yes.
you couldn't cry, you couldn't show emotion
Yeah, I
because
wasn't allowed to grieve. The only thing the counselors ever said to me was that it was my fault because my ex and I had an argument that day.
what would
And
that have to do with anything?
Because I don't even remember what it was about, but at one point he said he was going to take the baby out to my sister because she was nursing at that time, and so she could feed her. And I said, you can't take my baby from me. And they said that it was my fault because she didn't belong to me. She belonged to Yahweh. And so Yahweh was proving to me that she belonged to him.
Wow. Well, I appreciate you sharing that with us, and hopefully your story can, help somebody else, or, touch somebody else in a way that will be uplifting and healing for somebody. So I appreciate you sharing that with us.
Most definitely, yes. What prompted you to leave the House of Yahweh?
Okay.
So here we go, Mel. Get the popcorn out, bro. Here we go.
So after he brought home his second wife from Pennsylvania, he moved her in 10 feet behind my house and built a 10-foot fence in between our houses with a little door that like connected our porches. Like it was like a little bitty Smurf door. It was like I couldn't even fit through it. So it was like pass things back and forth. And he was over there all the time because the counselors were telling him that I was just a rebellious woman and that he shouldn't have anything to do with me and a bunch of stuff. And so He
Is
was
this
told
because
that,
you were not you were not being accepting of the second wife? Is that why they were saying that? What was their reasoning for saying that you were
no,
rebellious?
the second wife and I, we got along fine, the two of us. We didn't deal a whole lot with each other.
Right?
Um, so, but he was over there all the time. He only came over to my house for one thing. So, and I'll just leave it at that.
Right.
Like, didn't spend time with the children. The only one that he really spent time with was my oldest son, because he was over the age of 4 at the time.
Mm.
So he had to be with the men because the wall had already been built.
Oh, okay.
I had all of the other children didn't come and do like any family time with us. She did all of his cooking. She washed all of his clothes. But I constantly questioned things. And so the things that were changing, in like 2007, 2008, I was like, hey,
You mean some of
I
the
have,
teachings?
yes,
Some of the new teachings. Okay.
yes. And so I was constantly asking my counselors, well, what about this? And what about that? And what about this?
Well,
And
what
I'd
was
ask again.
if I may ask, what was at least one of the new teachings that they had started?
Well, a lot of mine was, well, why isn't this coming to pass?
Ah.
Why isn't the end of he's told us, 4 times, this is the end of the world. When is that actually going to happen?
Right.
And, nothing is coming to pass. So I just continue, I was always asking those questions and, was told, oh, you need to just believe. You need to believe without seeing, and I was like, well, I can't do that.
Without works is dead.
And like, my mind doesn't work that way. I can't just believe something. I have to see it. That's how I learn. I have to see it happen.
Well, and especially when you're being told that this is going to happen, and
On
then
this date.
and yes, and it's coming, and then that date comes and goes, and then you're told to believe, just pretend we didn't say that, because now it's a new date, and we got a new prophecy. So just ignore what was said before.
Right. But it's not even, well, forget that we even said that date. It's Yahweh was showing us that wasn't the exact time that he had talked about. Time as we know it is not the same
Oh.
as what Yahweh knows.
Oh, okay. All right.
So.
Well, that's a new one.
That is.
I was like, I'm not getting this. This doesn't make any sense to me. And it was always in the form of a dream. Well, hell, I have dreams, they don't always come to pass.
Right.
Exactly. Sometimes they don't even make sense.
Right, exactly. So just because it came into your head when you were asleep doesn't make it real.
Right.
Right? You are asleep. You're not studying anything. You're not, trying to find hidden code. You are sleeping. So it doesn't make sense to me that you would rely on just that.
Right.
So, I'm always asking these questions, well, what about this? What about that? And then my ex's counselors told him that he had to separate himself from me for an entire week. Couldn't call me, couldn't come see me, nothing. And so I flew off the handle. I'm like, excuse me, I have bills to pay. How am I supposed to contact him and say, hey, this is what the bills are. I need this X amount of dollars. Right. I have to go buy groceries because I didn't have access to the checking accounts. He left an envelope of cash on the front seat of my truck every week to take care of the household. So,
okay.
So, I need to be able to give him an amount. How am I supposed to contact him? How am I supposed to do this? And so I called my counselors and I was like, hey, I don't understand what's going on, why he can't talk to me, but I need, such and such done. I need all this. And, they were like, well, if you would just believe and just listen, then, he could talk to you again. And I said, that's not going to happen until I have answers. Like, I need to know why this. And one of my counselors said, well, then there's obviously no hope for you. And I said, well, if there's no hope for me, then why am I talking to you? And I hung up the phone. At that point, that was February. Rewind to like the previous November, after the Feast of Tabernacles in 2007, I started making up excuses as to why I couldn't go to services. I was sick, one of the kids was sick, because I wasn't getting answers. And so if I'm not getting answers, I don't want to hear anything new. I want to hear the answers to my questions first. Like, before I can say, okay, yeah, this is true. Give me something. And so I wasn't going to services. I can't go. I'm sick. I don't, have a sore throat. Nathan woke up throwing up. I can't go. Had somebody else come in and taken the girls to school. Nathan actually worked on the farm. He was 2007, so he was 6. I bought him a cell phone, and so that he could contact me, because that was the only way that he could contact me. But they picked him up in the truck, and he climbed in the back of the truck and went to the farm.
To go to work at 6?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
8 hours a day?
Yes.
Just clarifying, because I'm a mom. Just gotta ask these things.
I wanted him to go to school, and they said, well, he can work on the farm. The girls were supposed to be in school. They were peeling potatoes in the kitchen. Olivia is the best potato peeler you will ever meet. She's been doing it since she was 4. I pulled them out. I pulled the girls out when Kiara and another elder's daughter were, they're 7 and 8. They're little. They're playing. They're in the cafeteria, and they both pressed on one of the scales with their hands and broke it. And they called me and said I had to replace it. Yeah. I'm like, I'll give you half, because so-and-so's daughter was doing it with her. So I'll pay for half, and they can pay for the other half. And we'll call it good. We're not buying 2 scales.
Wow.
So yeah, Nathan was going to the farm. The girls were working in the kitchen. Had somebody else pick up the girls and take them, because I didn't want to leave the house. I kind of fell into a depression because nobody was talking to me. At that point, most of the people that I knew when I had first gone were gone.
Had left.
And that includes your mom and your sister at that point?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not
okay.
yet. My sister at that point was working for my ex, doing not sure what she was doing. She was driving one of the vans with tools and stuff in it. He owns a construction company, and she was doing, I think, some more of like the back end work. I'm going to go pick this up for you, get the invoices, that type thing. Basically to pay to get her children back. Because there were some other situations going on there.
Pay to get her children back from other members of the House of Yahweh?
No, from the legal system.
Okay.
Because of things that had gone on.
Because of the House of Yahweh.
Yes, because of the House of Yahweh. So, but she wasn't like, she was not going to the House of Yahweh. I'd say she was probably more, doing it just to get her children back. Okay, I'm going to do this. You can help pay for my legal fees and and get this ball rolling for me.
Meaning she didn't believe anymore at that point.
No.
Right.
No. My mom was she was like in the process of leaving. I was, just like, I didn't really talk to anybody at that point because I didn't really have friends there.
Right.
So I was just, so I reached out to somebody that had left that was online in February. I actually, back in November, December, I had found an online game that I just kind of immersed myself in. An interactive game where I met people from all over the world that I could talk to and, tell my story to, and who, they were like, that's not how you need to, you need to get out of that situation. That's not a healthy relationship.
Right. Okay, we're at 40 minutes in. Are we going to need to do 2 episodes, do you think, on them?
Zoom just told me that we can, they're not going to put a time limit on us.
Oh, I didn't get
that. Yeah, I got that message as well.
Oh, I didn't see it.
I mean, so
let's
Zoom
just
thinks
keep
I'm
going.
in charge of this meeting.
Let's
Zoom
keep
thinks
going.
I'm in charge of this meeting, Mel. Is
well,
that
good.
okay?
I'm glad for that. Yes, we'll do that. I like it.
Okay.
Okay, I'm sorry, Leanne. Keep going.
Oh, no, you're fine. I have a pretty lengthy story. I got involved in this game. It's called Second Life. Met people from all over the world.
So you probably needed a second life at that point.
I did.
How fitting.
I did. Actually joined it on a Christmas day.
Merry Christmas to you.
Yes. Met people, like I said, from all over the world. Belgium, the Philippines, that I was able to just talk to, and because they weren't involved in the situation, they couldn't say, oh, you just have to believe, because
you were able to get outside opinions and resources.
Yes.
Right.
And so that at that point, that was around February, they kind of listened to me for a few months, and they were like, this isn't healthy. You need to get out. You're going to, something bad's going to happen. And so I was like, okay. So I reached out to somebody who had left. And I was like, hey, I need out. I have to get out. Found her on MySpace, because that's when we were doing all that. And she was like, you need to talk to your sister. And I was like, I can't talk to my sister. She works for my husband. He's going to find out. He's going to take my keys. He's going to take the truck. I'm not going to be able to go anywhere. I cannot tell my sister. And she was like, talk to your sister. And I was like, you're crazy. So she called my sister. And my sister came over to the house. And this was end of January. I had just turned 30. And she said, what's going on? So-and-so said, you need to talk to me. And I said, well, okay. I said, I want out. And she said, are you 100% sure? And I said, yes. I said, I can't do this. And she said, okay. She said, you take trash bags. She said, you don't pack luggage. She said, you take trash bags. She said, you pack a week's worth of clothes for you. You pack a week's worth of clothes for your kids. And you put them in the truck, and you meet me in town on Friday. Meet me at Mom's house on Friday. I'm like, okay. So I had been taking college classes, so I bought my computer with my Pell Grant, so that went in the truck too. Bought the refrigerator too, but I couldn't fit that, so.
Too bad.
Yeah, I know. It was a really nice one too. So packed all that in the truck, put the dog in the truck. My ex had built an apartment, like an office apartment, to his second wife's house, and it overlooked my property. He was in there all day preparing for a sermon, never saw me once loading the truck.
Wow.
At all. Put the dog in the car. He thought I went grocery shopping. Who puts the dog in the car? The 80-pound collie in the car to go grocery shopping.
Wow.
Drove into town, my sister met me at my mom's with another member that had left. We rearranged the back of the truck. The dog stayed at my mom's because she had kennels in the back, and that's where I got her from. So she stayed at my mom's, and Stacy and I, or well, most of us know who my sister is, left and headed to Houston.
So did you guys leave together then?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
With all the children, all your children.
With all of my children.
Okay, so basically she was like, are you 100% sure, girl? Because I am all in.
Yes, basically, yes.
That's
at the
awesome.
time, I didn't know that.
Right.
Because her and I had arguments in the past, and she would run to my head.
Right.
And then I would get in trouble. So I was like, I can't tell my sister anything.
She must have been at her breaking point too then.
Yes.
Right.
I think she'd already hit her breaking point.
You just didn't know it.
I didn't know it.
Right.
She probably needed somebody to give her strength to go to.
Yeah. But
well, it is easier when you leave with somebody.
So she drove to Houston, and he kept calling and kept calling and kept calling. And I wasn't answering the phone. I felt like crap. I was getting sick. I was running a fever. Like, my sister was worried about me. She kept reaching over and feeling my head. And then she was like, you might as well just go ahead and answer it. And just let him know. Because he's calling all kinds of people up there as well. Like, hey, have you seen her? Thinking I'd been in an accident. Something. So I answered the phone. And the only words out of his mouth to me were, how can you do that? Those are my flesh and blood. Not me. He wanted my children. That's it. And he followed us to Houston. Stacy took the phone from me and was like, hey, he was like, well, how could you let her leave? And she said, well, did you want her to go on her own? That's all she's ever known. I was 11 when I went. I was 30 when I left. The only thing I had ever known was the House of Yahweh.
Well, here's the perfect opportunity for our next question then. What was it like for you integrating back into society, and what are some of the things that you did to cope with that?
It was hard, very hard, because I didn't know, I knew business aspect of it because I helped run the business,
right, and
do all of his business paperwork, but actually living in it was so different. It's night and day. What I couldn't do then, I'm now allowed to do fully. I can do whatever I want. And
that has to be, was that really overwhelming for you coming from such a controlled environment?
So it was to a point, but I think being with my sister helped.
Right. Because
she's 7 years older than I am. So she was already living outside of the home when we left.
Right.
Already knew, she grew up in this world. So, where I did not.
Right.
So, and we lived together for 5 or 6 months. And then I went and stayed at my mom's. And then Matt took the kids so I could find a place to live. He came down, and they went and stayed for about a month. And when I went to get them, and I know when I went to get them, he made them choose who they wanted to live with. They are at that time 8, 7, or 8, 6. 3 and 2. Wow. Olivia stayed with me because when he came to pick them up, I helped load them all in the truck, and she screamed for 45 minutes. So he turned around and brought her back. And so after he made them choose, I had Kiara, Olivia, and Caleb.
And how old were they at the time?
How old were they?
Yeah, how old were the children?
Yeah, so Kiara was 8. Olivia was 5, and Caleb was 2.
Okay. And so they articulated and said, "I want to go with mom."
Yes.
All of
Well,
them. Okay.
Caleb went with me because he was 2.
Right. Okay.
Right. Olivia was already with me.
So he didn't ask the 2-year-old.
No.
That kind of went unsaid, that because he was so young he would go with you.
Yes.
Okay.
Nathan and Nathaniel. Nathan was 6. Nathaniel was 3, almost 4. Stayed with him. At first.
At first, okay.
And then I'm trying to remember how Nathaniel came back to stay with me. I know how Nathan did. But at some point between, say that was June and September, so Nathaniel came back to me in August when our temporary orders went into place with the court. So the court said he came to stay with me because he wasn't school age, and my ex owns his own company. So at that point I had 4 of them. And then in September, his second wife was dying of breast cancer.
Oh, wow.
From what I understand, wasn't allowed to seek medical treatment.
Oh.
So, my sister was going there for a court hearing, and I said, why don't you let Stacy bring Nathan back to me so that you can focus on her? You need to focus on your wife.
Right.
Like, my concern was she needs your support right now. You don't need to be dealing with a 6-year-old.
Right.
And so he was like, okay, fine. How will I get him back? I was like, well, you can come pick him up. I mean, that's what the court order says, that he's supposed to be with you. You can come pick him up. Like, I don't have a problem with that, but you need to focus on her. And so my sister picked him up and brought him to me when Nathan got there. Both Nathan and Caleb have September birthdays. And so this was September. So we threw a big, giant Chuck E. Cheese birthday party for his 7th birthday and Caleb's 3rd birthday, which they'd never had because we weren't allowed to celebrate birthdays. And we, so then after that, Nathan was seeing his sisters get on the bus and go to school every day. And, well, I want to go to school. And I said, well, buddy, right now I can't enroll you in school because you live with daddy. I said, so I can't send you to school. I said, right. You can ask daddy about that. And he said, well, I just want to stay here. I want to live with you. And I said, okay, well, then, we have to talk to daddy about that.
Right.
And so at 7, he called his dad and said that he wanted to live with me. And his dad didn't fight it. So I went down and I enrolled him in school. And then he didn't fight for custody when we had the full divorce. Didn't fight child support. He allowed me to change their last names to his.
Oh, you mean from Hawkins?
Yeah, from Hawkins to Stubbs. And he didn't really call, didn't really talk to them. He talked to my oldest son for since we left. But Nathan would have to ask, well, do you want to talk to so-and-so? Do you want to talk to Kiara? Do you want to talk to, Olivia? And he was like, well, yeah, if they want to talk to me. But other than that, there was no contact.
Do you think he didn't really feel bonded to your other children?
I
Do you
I think that he reaches out to Nathan because Nathan's his firstborn son.
you mean because of House of Yahweh teaching, because of the
Yes.
teachings of what that means for
Yes.
the House of Yahweh? So you think that it has really nothing to do with that? He's more bonded with him. Then.
Yes. Nathan
Okay.
is the one that is the only one that he ever had to actually jump in and actually take care of
Right.
because he was over the age of 4 and had to go to the men's side.
Okay.
So now that they're older now, does he maintain a relationship with them now? Is it still just with Nathan?
He still maintains a relationship with Nathan. He's just recently started reaching out to Nathaniel because Nathaniel had some medical issues that required hospitalization, and his dad found out about it and said, "Oh, well, just let him come live with me, and I'll raise him." And I said, "Well, I said if that's what you want, then we can go back to court
Right.
and we can talk to court about it." And he, "Oh, I don't want to do that." I said, "Well, that's the only that's the only way he's coming to live with you is
Right.
if we go to court, because I'm not going to break the court order."
So good. So then you have all of your children then.
Yes.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So the reason why I kind of want to segue into something else, we don't want to say any names on the subject. I just want to ask this question. We caught wind, and I'm sure you heard, that there is an actual elder in the House of Yahweh that is joining the sheriff's department.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about this? And do you think that it's fair? Do you think it's okay? I mean, what are your concerns on this?
My concerns is that that particular elder will have access to databases that he does not need.
Databases as in
here, let's find this person.
Like ex-members, potentially.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
That is my main concern.
Mm-hmm.
It's fine. You want to learn about the laws of the land? Good. Go find out about the laws of the land.
So do you think that this particular elder would do, I don't want to call it necessarily illegal, but
basically where do his loyalties lie? Are his loyalties
right.
going to lie with the authorities of the land of the law, or are his loyalties toward the House of Yahweh and Israel Hawkins? That's the question.
His loyalty is to Israel Hawkins 100%.
Wow. Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah.
So in other words, if Israel Hawkins told him, find this person and go use your database through the sheriff's office to do that, even though he would know that legally, as far as his job goes in the world, that he would still go against that in order to obey Israel Hawkins, so to speak.
Yes.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right.
I would explain why if I could, but
we'll save it for another segment.
Well,
we'll save it for another time.
Because he's in a cult.
Leanne, I appreciate you coming on with us and being so candid and so open about your life. Do you have any last words for anybody that may have somebody who's left the house or somebody who may be considering to leave the house?
Just that there are tons of us out there that are willing to help you. It doesn't matter if you knew me for 5 seconds. It doesn't matter if you knew me, your entire life. I'm only a message away.
Yep. I agree. Me too.
Me too. Message me.
Yep.
Again, Leanne, thank you so much. I'm just so appreciative of you coming on here. Like I said, your story to me is simply amazing.
Absolutely.
I love your strength and your courage and your confidence, and I just love the the woman that you have become.
Absolutely. And I want to thank you too for coming and speaking with us and reaching out to us to do your interview and for sharing even painful and difficult parts of your life that aren't easy to share. And I appreciate your openness with that and being open and honest with us because that isn't always easy to do. So, and I hope that since then that you have been able to, and it sounds like you did get some of the counseling that you needed in order to grieve and do what you needed to do to move forward. And I think that's why you're able to talk about it, which is awesome. It's amazing. That's a good thing for you, and I'm sure for your other children too.
Yeah.
So in closing then, we want to thank you again for speaking with us. And again, this is Leaving the Lies and Speaking Your Truth. You can find us on YouTube. Please like, share, and subscribe. You can also find us on our Facebook page. And we urge you to join and invite anybody else to join that you think may benefit from our program, because we want to reach as many people as possible to try to spread the word about cult awareness. And certainly to anybody that's in the House of Yahweh, you can reach out to us to private message us. If you're looking for a way out, we can help you. We will help you. So
Yes.
Thank you again and have a good day. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.